According to page6.com, Justin Bieber drops over $1,000 on weed and edibles in one go. Welcome to 14bucks.com, where we go over how you can master your money and just live a better life, honestly. But this is going to be probably a pretty interesting article, so let's get into it. So he really does get his weed in California. Justin Bieber stopped by Wonder Brett's new flagship cannabis store in LA on Monday, where he purchased more than $1,000 worth of weed products, we're told. So the Peaches crooner appropriately bought Wonder Brett's Peach OZ fruit puree edibles and one of every Wonder Brett strain from Pink Picasso to Oz Kush, Pineapple OG, Orange Sunset, Melon OG, and more. He was there for 20 minutes, spent over $1,000, was very personable, asked a lot of questions, and Wonder Brett's co-founder and breeder, Brett Feldman, told Page 6 on Tuesday. He was very interested in cannabis and how beneficial it is, loves how the stigma is changing, and he smokes blunts. Bieber, 27, opened up about his past drug abuse in his docuseries Seasons, including his first time smoking some marijuana. The first time I smoked weed was in my backyard here, got super stoned, Bieber said in a voiceover. And then I realized I liked weed a lot. That's when my desire to smoke weed started, and then I started smoking weed for a while. But his relationship with weed became complicated when he went from using it recreationally to developing a dependency on it, which is definitely not good. And then I started getting really dependent on it, and that's when I realized that I had to stop, he said in the series. I don't think it's bad, it's just that for me, it can be a dependency. Now this is important, right? That like anyone in this situation can like self-reflect and basically be like, okay, hey, I like this item, but I understand that like if I am not careful, I can get addicted to it. I can be basically connected to it to where I need it nonstop, which in turn will lead to basically financial destruction, right? Because here's the thing, even though he is a massive multi-millionaire, right? Regardless of who you are or how much money you have, if you become dependent on something to the point of like addiction, like to true addiction, it doesn't matter because you're going to end up losing almost all of your money. This happens to pro football players. This happens to pro athletes. This happens to a lot of singers, right? Because they just spend almost all of their money on drugs, right? Another example of someone spending a bunch of their money on like useless items is I think Adrian Bonner. I think that like a boxer where he has made millions and millions of dollars, but he is dependent on a certain lifestyle that costs him like $500,000 to $1 million per month in expenses, right? So you could end up getting into debt even though you're a multi-millionaire bringing in multi-millions of dollars. And because of you just being dependent on either a substance or lifestyle or certain habits that end up costing you money. And, you know, spending $1,000 for him, technically speaking, is not a bad financial decision, right? Even though it is for like weed, right? For drugs and all that kind of stuff, right? Technically speaking, it is not a bad financial decision, especially since he understands that he has to be careful with it, right? Because of his potential dependency for it. That's why someone in his position doing something like this, but being careful with how he's doing it, taking the necessary precautions, talking to people about his situation, you know, talking about the different products, how they can help him with something specific. Like actually go there with kind of like a game plan. That will actually help him out long term for like future expenses when it comes to like weed or drugs or things that he ends up, you know, getting involved in, right? Because this can really help him out long term, right? Because yeah, a lot of people might not think, you know, $1,000 is, you know, not, well, a lot of people actually think that $1,000 is a crazy amount of money, right? But again, for him, it's basically like you putting like a penny into like a gumball machine. Like that's basically the equivalent. Not even, because he has so much money, right? But for him, because of the dependency factor, this $1,000 can easily scale up to like 200 grand per month, 500 grand per month, $1 million per month on just spending money on like weed or some other drug that he might have partaked in, right? So I think it's pretty smart what he's doing and how he's going about it. But either way, anything that is going to become like a dependency, you need to take a step back and like reflect, right? And a lot of people may not think that they might have a dependency on something, but they actually do. For example, there's a lot of people, I think especially girls, who end up getting Starbucks in the morning, right? That's a dependency that is costing you potentially $150 to $300 per month. And for some people, that's literally causing them to live paycheck to paycheck, depending on their income. That is literally causing them to live paycheck to paycheck. So you really got to be honest with yourself, regardless of how your income level is, as to what are you doing that is basically like an addiction that is costing you money to where it actually affects you negatively. And a lot of people are not honest with themselves, but if you end up stumbling upon this episode, you need to be honest with yourself as to what is being dependent, like a dependency, so that you can avoid it, so that you can live a better life in the future, a happier life in the future, so that you can still, partake in your Starbucks coffee, or I guess if you're in a state where weed is legal and you end up wanting to partake in that, so that you can still partake in that, but with an understanding that like, hey, I can't go overboard with this stuff. I can do this here and there, but I can't do this stuff every day, because if I do this stuff every day, this can easily get into a situation where it gets uncontrollable. And, this is not going to be easy to do. It's not going to be easy to just stop this, right? If you're dealing with like a dependency of any kind, it's not going to be easy to just be like, hey, I want to stop. Right? It's going to take some time to break this, cycle of habits that you have built up. But once you do, it can dramatically change your life. So if you're in a situation where you are being dependent, or you're in a situation where like, money is tight and you're not really understanding why, just sit down alone with a piece of paper and pencil and just literally write down, what do you do every day, all the time? Like, what do you do every single day? What is something that you buy all the time? What do you do like clockwork, where it's like you don't even think about it? And once you actually start to realize like what are your habits and where your money's actually going, you're gonna be like, whoa, what on earth am I doing? Why am I spending hundreds of dollars at restaurants? Why am I spending like $1,000 at Chipotle that is basically making me have explosive diarrhea? Why am I, spending money on like energy drinks when I could just drink a homemade coffee for like 1/100th of the price? So that's something that you need to really think about it. Now, if you need help with mastering your money, you can learn the secret to mastering your money in the description of this episode. And feel free to share this with someone who really needs help with stopping their dependency on anything.